Hi, you guys. Rebecca here with Sirius Blue for next round of these conversations. Um, I didn't know I was going to be creating a series when I started this. Well, 2 weeks ago, I recorded the first video about my rather anomalous experiences, and not knowing where that would lead, but clearly there's a lot more to say on these topics, and I'm really touched that I've gotten so much beautiful feedback from everyone. Yeah, I mean, the comments feed on the last video and text messages and phone calls and lots of emails, new correspondence and things. So I'm continuing because this is helpful to me, but also because it's in service to the truth. As I said in the last video, unmasking our true essence and being authentic, fidelity to the deepest kernel of our own experience. For me, I know my time is up as far as hiding goes, and I've said all this probably before on the video. I'm not sure exactly, but it's time within the greater shift in this world right now, as we're moving through the pandemic times, I guess, or whatever we're calling this. It's a huge shift for humanity, and the literal pulling off of the mask and the blinders so we can share ourselves from a vulnerable place. And I'm hoping that's what I can model here, even though, I sat down and I just getting ready to record and kind of just tuning in for a while in silence. I could feel that like fear rising in me, like my little heart, pitter pattering. And so this is only the second video, and it remains edgy for me. I want you to know that this is not easy. And it did take me, 2 weeks and a couple of days, I guess, to kind of sit back down here with you all. So I can feel that kind of edgy feeling in the solar plexus. But also a softness too, because all the feedback I got, it was so moving. It's like just feeling so held and so cared for in ways I had not expected, from people I had not expected. So I feel almost like I owe it to myself and my audience to continue with this and my own unfolding journey into kind of the unknown as I make the most hidden aspects of my life rather public. Yeah, it's edgy. So I know I'm on the right track, and with people's messages and feedback, I understood that I was helping unlock them. In the correspondence I received, it was like bravery and courage were words that were used to describe me or what I was doing. And I thought, I'm not really that brave. Did you see me? It's just shaking and crying, and that's really real. That's human. That's human when we push ourselves to our edge, which is where we all are now in the culture within this sort of free fall. So many people, so many of my clients are having massive transformations, and it's very edgy. It's very uncomfortable for many people because we don't know what's coming. And like I said, if you're on my email list, like the shadow is coming up to be cleared, to be seen and healed and cleared, both from collective consciousness, collective experience, and also through the matrix of our own lives, our own unique personal lives. So hoping to encourage you to, in whatever that means to you, to get out of your comfort zone with how you reveal yourself and how we express ourselves. Like for my life, I feel like I've been living in a dark little hole, and now it's all through the throat, the tremendous tension that I often carry here. This energy center is beginning to expand, and it touches the heart. It helps, for me, feel like I'm being accepted into the human family now. even though I'm showing some of the darkest dark things you could ever imagine, and then taking it a few steps beyond that. Yeah, it's edgy. It's edgy. But my guides have shared that this is sort of what I, part of what I came in to do, was to experience these things and also then bring healing around these issues. So, yeah, again, I'm dedicating this to bringing light into the darkness and using my own life and experience as the template and the model for that. So I hope I can live up to that. Yeah. Yeah, and I know in the last video I said in the pauses where I'm gathering myself, because I speak kind of slowly and I do pause to kind of feel into I'm listening to other dimensions and listening for higher guidance. And I'm also kind of being with my small sort of shy self, kind of coaxing her out of this hiding place as I go step by step, like little baby step, and then some big leaps. But just hold my hand if there's some silence and I look a little scared. Yeah. Oh yeah. Whew. Oh, so I will share to start off. I'm going to be talking some about abduction, extraterrestrial abduction, but I wanted to also I had to make a little journey, and I'll share that with you. And I share these more intimate things because it gives context to my journey, and also it's very relatable on human terms. When I share, more, okay, it's the sort of private things goings on in the family. I'll share you that my family, my birth family, my sibling has shared, I learned this recently, like light language audios with my mother, probably, I think YouTube stuff from before I started this series. And my mom is in her 80s. She is not at all aware of this. She doesn't have a frame of reference for any of this or the multidimensional world. She is very much a product of materialist thinking in Newtonian physics. So anything that exists outside of the world we can touch with our hands doesn't make sense. And also anything outside of the realm of the given narrative in the culture is very scary. So I wondered what my sib was trying to accomplish in sharing this with our mother. I don't really know where I'm going with this, and that wasn't a big deal. She thinks I'm not very stable, and that's okay. And she just finds it confusing. I think that's unhelpful for her. Where I was going with this was that it's only a matter of time before he also shares these videos with her. And at first when I considered that, I was kind of panicked. But the journey I made, and it was pretty quick after this whole thing happened with my mother on the phone. I don't talk to her that much, but she said, well, I wanted you to know that he shared that with me, as if it was an accusation of some kind. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. The point I'm bringing it back to is I recognize after a little inner struggle there and feeling very, I think, hurting and vulnerable, that actually their experience was theirs to hold regarding these videos or anything else I'm doing or producing in the world or sharing in the world, that I don't have to caretake how this is for them. I'm not here to help other people be comfortable. I'm here to talk about the deeper things that have been going on in this world in hiding and in secret for a very long time. And in some ways, those programs are keeping this world shackled to darkness, and they've got to be brought to light. I'm not going to stop. So it was actually, I thanked him silently in my heart for doing that, because it helped me cross the bridge. And I know so many of you who have written to me have shared similar things. The reason I don't come out and share whatever it is, X, Y, Z, is because of what will people think? What will they say about me? Will I lose my friends and my family? once we're pushing up against the conventional narrative, we run into that issue, and often, more often than not, it serves to silence us. So I just wanted to, I feel like many of you will find that relatable. So, and it was very helpful to me. Oh, okay. And really, I love, considering how much I love my work in this world. I love what I get to do in this world. Helping people through and understanding the multidimensional realm to have context for their own journey in a spiritual way, in an intuitive way. I love this. And I just, as I'm moving through the minutes of this recording, getting to the point slowly, but I feel so held, and I just want to thank you. I don't know if I've ever, number one, I haven't let myself be seen in this way. And of course, then if we're not letting ourselves be seen, we can't be held for who we are. We can't be received as who we are. We can't be received in our most authentic being. And that's everybody on the planet has a human imperative, collective human imperative to be received as they are and to feel that they belong, no matter what their belief system or their experience. So I'm belaboring the point, but I really am so grateful for all of you. It's really, it's been really moving for me and for the small selves who have been so damaged and afraid to speak about any of this. It's still obviously very hard. And the woundedness continues. You know, I heal that. But this is part of that. And I hope it is for you. I hope it is helping you heal the most decrepit and small, shy, pained aspects of your own life that you know you have living in the shadows. Okay, so moving into the part about the abductions. There's a lot to say about that. When I considered, I was asking and listening about, well, what is the next video about? And I heard, about being taken at night. I was really afraid. I guess everything would have a little bit of fear because it's, I have to go fully into, I had to really sit with my feelings around a whole string of abductions in my life. It started as early as I can remember. And it does feel edgy. So here's a part where you can take my hand just if you want. All my life I've always called them night terrors, or dreams, very, very, very frightening dreams in which I'm paralyzed, I'm mute, and I want so much to call for help and I can't, and someone is coming and taking me. And they're terrifying. It's not just like, I don't know how to describe it because it's so much deeper than a nightmare. It's so much more wrong than a nightmare, or a nightmare gone terribly wrong. Yeah. And I probably started, as early as I have memory. So as a toddler, these dreams were there. And I'd always find myself like that, trying to scream, trying to have voice and being muted. Can't move. I'm terrified. I'm utterly terrified. And I don't know what's happening. And this is all at night in the wee hours of the morning, alone in bed as a child, and then on into adulthood. And every one of them is exactly the same in that way, where I cannot move. I can't make a sound and I cannot get away, and I know something awful is happening. They were frequent in childhood. This was frequent. This was not unusual. And I would try after the experience ended, and I was sort of, I would wake up and not know where I was or what had happened. And I was completely disoriented. And I would start calling in my little, child's voice in the bedroom, which was dark, and say, "Mom, Mom," like obviously upset. And if she ever heard me, she never came, or I remember once she just said, "You're fine, go back to sleep." And I'm like, "I'm so not fine. Can you please just come?" So I never remember anyone coming, but I remember being scared, and then just eventually I could go back to sleep. These experiences continued into my 20s. They were most prolific in my, childhood years. And as I got older, less so, but then they carried on. Some years I'd have them more frequently, and then some years, like more into my 30s and then into my 40s, not so frequent, but still there. I thought, why isn't this ever going away? And I still haven't met anybody who has had a similar experience, although I know you must be out there. This just horror, this feeling of, I know I'm being taken and I can't stop it. And when I finally fessed up to this, of, putting things together, I had tons of nosebleeds when I was a kid. I was always at the nurse's office. They couldn't figure out why my nose was bleeding. Or I'd wake up in my bed with my head at the foot of the bed, or all my jewelry was removed, or my clothes were on in a funny way, or I was missing clothes, or I was naked, or just these strange anomalies. And I just thought, wow, I'm really doing stuff at night. I don't know what this is. It's very weird, but I have nothing to say about it. I never told anybody. It's just unusual. I never really spoke to my parents about those dreams. They were so beyond what I thought I should be seeing, and I thought there was something wrong with me. So when I finally came clean with the fact that these were all me being taken, and some form of interference or abduction by non-benevolent beings, I just fell apart. I know the evidence was there my whole life, but I didn't want to see it because it was too scary and too outside the framework of what I could handle in my life. And I did. I kind of came, I cried a lot, and I felt so helpless and powerless with this. I felt so, because how many dozens of times did this happen? It's accompanied me my whole life without any context. And so, yeah, they're more frightening experience. These experiences are so frightening. I don't really have words for what would be running through my little body and then my adult body, and being so disoriented, and like my heart is pounding, and I'm kind of like, back in bed when I like come to in the regular world. Not sure what had happened. Never really discussed it. And then I started talking to myself about it and seeing what was actually there, and seeing, well, I told you guys last time, and if you haven't seen the last video, go watch that. It is an hour long, but it'll give you a lot of context for what I'm talking about here. When my father died, just before that, I had discovered and ended the program, the negative program he had brokered with the Greys to put me into service and basically be abducted and be taken off world to do different jobs, not in a good way. I had ended that program, and I thought that these experiences would end. And then also in the video previous, I had shared that after his death this spring, actually just a month ago, I had been cleaning out, going through a box of his papers, and I found some written documents that detailed, they were related to the work he was doing for the deep state military industrial complex. And they related to mind control. And also there was a short story that he had penned himself back in the 70s. It's very much related to his own story of being a Zeta hybrid. and a race that came from Zeta Reticuli, originally a race of peaceful beings. There was a bad seed, and his family was a part of that, and they were pushed out of the Zeta Reticuli community and given freedom and a craft to go wander the realms, have all their resources, but to basically get away because they were negative or harboring, a lot of service to self, a lot of malice. There's more to it, but eventually this race finds Earth and decides it wants to co-opt and control Earth for its own means. Anyway, this is a story my father had written in his own hand. But anyway, the morning after I found those papers, it wasn't even morning, it was still in the night, in the wee hours. Guess what happened? You got it. I had one of those experiences. And I was, they've been with me for so long, it wasn't that, it was disappointing because I thought, okay, I thought I ended the program with that is all ended. The program with the Greys is over, so why is it still happening? It's very confusing. What I had said when I ended the program contractually on my end, that my father had brokered with the Greys, I said, if this ever happens again with these abduction scenarios, and I will go more into this, what's actually going on with those abductions, I said, I will see exactly what is happening. I will know what is happening. I will not have this hidden one more time from me. So when this experience came in the night again, May 5th, I think, I did see, and I did see, and I did see. And I was being lifted, sort of like pushed from behind, lifted out of my bed and pushed. It's almost like an unseen force. I was levitating and being, I want to say, vacuumed out of the front door of my house while being also pushed behind from an unseen force. It wasn't like a being there, but I was like levitating and my body was kind of in this, the limbs kind of drawn back and the head tilted upward. And there's a gossamer sheet there, like a little screen, but on the other side is this hooded figure. I can't see the being, but it feels just like evil incarnate, and I am about to be. It's like I can see everything they're going to do. I can see that they're taking me. I can see that they've always taken me. And it unfolded in that moment, where I was lucid while this was happening. And I wish I could tell you I had seen that. It's an Archonic force. It was a bulky, hooded, black, dark figure. And, intentionally throughout abductions, and I think historically throughout abductions, if they have, dialed in their technology, you're not meant to see or remember anything. That's a seamless abduction, and that's them doing their job properly. A sort of poor way to put it. But, it sounds like there's not much to that. Could it be just a bad dream? But the feeling of this is not like anything else I can compare it to in a dream state or, of course, waking life. What I have seen too is insectoids related to these abduction experiences that come in and are, they sort of seem like the henchmen of the Greys. The Greys and the Draco are the main bosses of these abductions, at least for me. There's tons of abduction literature out there. I suppose you could read lots of different accounts of that. I can only speak for myself, but I have seen insectoids that seem to have been used. They're tall, they walk upright, ant beings, to be more precise. They're very tall and kind of skinny and with a reddish cast, almost like like a fire ant or something. And I think that they were using a certain sort of technology, if you like, to help create that paralysis. But I think also that the insectoids that work in some of these abductions, at least in mine, seem to be co-opted by the Greys and the Draco to do this work. Like they were sort of I don't know what is the right word, like a prisoner or they're kind of out of their natural rhythm or not behaving the way that, what I'm getting at is they were kind of forced into labor to do this sort of work here on Earth for the Greys. So the insectoids, and I know the Greys are present. It's a little bit, I mean, maybe it's good I was protected from actually seeing this sort of hooded, very non-human presence that I know is nothing good. I think in my journal I wrote, this is the most incarnate evil I've ever experienced in my life. So it's better though. So after that, I know this is related to the Greys. It felt like a warning, you know. So I guess a couple things I could say. First is you may be asking this, well, why are they taking you and where are they taking you? What for? What is this all about? It's two things, two reasons I know of that I have been interfered with or taken. And one is for doing work off-world in secret programs, dark, black projects, black ops, programs that are not on Earth or in facilities on the backside of the moon. And this was back in late 70s, early 80s, and also other locations in the solar system where we could call a underground facility or a base. So part of it was for that. And I speak more of that in the first video. You can go back and check those out. And I know I'll speak more on that in later videos here. Wow, yeah, I guess so. But also the second reason with the abduction is I know part of it is for what is called, or been termed to me as harvest of genetic material, DNA. Yeah, harvest and like checkups or data collection from me. แต่ถ้าฉันนี่ก็น่าจะชื่อนักล่าคือเดี๋ยวนี้ค่ะนี่มากันมาดีตรงใจแล้วมาอีกเนาะท้องแค่มาคนเชียจิชาเนาะที่น่าโอเคเนี่ยคิดชอบกันช่วยจิชอบแต่เดี๋ยวนี้จะมาตัวท่าที่คิดชอบค่ะนี่ I think when it gets difficult to speak, it's like my galactic language is taking over. And bringing light to the situation so it's easier to talk about for you, so you lose your place. Yeah, thank you. And I know I'm surrounded here and held here. And this has a lot of light as I continue to tell the story. There's some interesting twists and turns in this that are nice surprises. So the genetic material, wow, how do we talk about that? The Greys particularly have been very interested in experimenting on humans, and they've been doing it for decades at least. And there's lots of different varieties of Zeta Reticuli, gray, short gray, tall gray, and within the short and tall, there's many different families or groups of gray, and with varying degrees of malevolence or wickedness. I don't know how you want to say it. But the Greys they're pretty, if you're listening to this, you probably know they're pretty famous in abduction and interference scenarios here on this planet. Lots of people have experienced interactions with the Greys and probably not that favorable. I don't know. Mostly they don't, it's kind of hard to talk about because they don't have a human, we have a certain frame of reference as a human for what is harmful and what is helpful. That seems to be rather inbuilt in most of us, human consciousness. The Greys don't seem to have that. They're in service to self most of the time, and they are doing a lot of genetic hybridization and experiments that involve humans, other ETs, and their own species. So, yeah, that is one of the primary reasons that these night well, the night terrors, night visitations are happening for me. I'm just pausing because it's still hard for me. Even though I know I contracted for this, I basically came in as a soul to experience certain things, and this being part of the thing I raised my hand to experience. It's still difficult, because I had pushed away and lived in denial with what was actually going on until I had a frame of reference within which to work with the truth. And it's still kind of hard for me. I think there's a lot of shame around it, or feeling. I know as a kid it was like, why didn't I say anything? Because I felt anytime we're violated, whether it's sexually, physically, whatever, as a kid, we blame ourselves. This is seems to be the makeup of those situations across the board. I felt like something was wrong with me and that I was bad somehow, so I was being punished and I shouldn't talk about it. I was very ashamed of the situation. Like, if I was a good girl, this wouldn't be happening to me. But that's the child's mind. That's the small kid's self. I mean, as a toddler, what are you going to think? I don't know, just that it was frightening, and maybe we shouldn't make anybody upset by telling them about it. They won't understand anyway. So, just pausing there again. Okay, I'll go into it. There's aspects of DNA in certain starseeds that are desirable for the Greys and for the Draco in hybridization projects and in cloning and creating cyborgs for off-world war. It's pretty involved, and I don't actually know all the things they want us for. And sometimes, certain races are just curious about humans and they want to learn more. Maybe they show up. They're not necessarily taking you anywhere, or maybe even harming you. And they might even be benevolent. If you're having experiences at night, don't assume that it's negative. But with the Greys, oh yeah, especially because this was all kind of orchestrated by my father and other means. Like I said, I did sign up for it. So, okay, I'm stalling. So let me come clear with it. I related to this thing about them taking genetic material is I had another dream, which was again extremely vivid. I'll never forget this experience. As I was uncovering all this about the abductions in my life, the experience is of standing outside by the sea, and there's some cliffs, and out of the sky falls a baby. And I'm trying to catch the baby. It's a beautiful blue sky day. It's not even night out, sunny. Trying to catch this thing. Why is it falling out of the sky? And it falls at the base of the cliff in the grass. And I stop it sort of with my foot, but I didn't catch it in my hands. And I'm thinking, oh God, what's wrong with the baby? Is it okay? And it's not crying at all like a human baby would. And I pick it up and I'm horrified because I know it's a baby that's been made with my own genetic material. And its eyes are funny. And in some ways it looks like an old man. And its skin is funny because there's aspects of its torso that are leathery gray. And what really clued me in to this being genetic material spliced with gray genetics was there was no bony structure for the nose. It was just two little holes. And I know that was related, it was given as a message to me, related to what has been done with my own genetic material. And sort of, it's a strange world out there, it really is. And I can relate that back to the ways my mind was used as a as a child in the hybridization and experimentation laboratories, where there are a lot of different ET races. Just horrible experiments. And what I was given with this baby was an experiment gone wrong. So there's lots of sort of bloopers. And it's kind of worse than that. It's pretty dark. But I guess as with anything, with research and development of new products, there's going to be a lot of error. So that's a big part of, I think, what's been going on, the harvest and the monitoring of my being by the Greys and by others. Yeah, I didn't think it would be so difficult to speak of on this. It's still kind of charged because it's like when you look back at a lifetime of this, and you've kept it in the dark even from yourself. Do you have things like that that you still don't really want to look at? Kind of tough. So I'm just listening. Yeah, there's other moments when I'm taken into a tunnel system, into an underground facility. Yeah, boy, this stuff is hard to talk about. A tunnel system into a underground facility, and then repeatedly, I know this has happened, strapped into a kind of I always liken it to more happily to a roller coaster. You know, when you're on a roller coaster that's going to like do this, and you're kind of strapped in up at the shoulders, like from here to here. You have a strap on and in this seat, and going at like faster than the speed of light, and it's through a sort of, I call it like the time tunnel. It's transcending space and time like that. You're taken directly out of space time, and then deposited in another underground facility. And that's been shown to me as the primary way it was taken to the facility on the backside of the moon. Like if you're standing at the backside of the moon, looking, you'd be in the upper left-hand quadrant there, toward the center line. That's where this place was located. And again, like I say, this would have been in the 70s, early 80s. And if that place still exists, it's been, I think, quite downsized, if not. It evolved in its function somewhat. So thank you guys. Wow. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know how it sounds as I relay these things, because I feel like abduction is super common. That's all over the place. I mean, extraterrestrial abduction and interference is really common. It's like, what's the big deal? Stop making a mountain out of a molehill. But it's touching into the sensitive content of my life and things that, you know, there's a little charge there, even though from my higher self aspect, I know I came in to, let's say, as a soul coming in, maybe a starseed coming in into this human realm, we would say the bigger mission is about learning the resolution of polarity. That is coming away from good, bad, right, wrong, black, white, good guys, bad guys, into the more unified field of consciousness, where those polar extremes are being more well integrated is the word. Even though I can know that from the higher perspective, there's still the little part of me that's like, God, that sucked. God, that sucked. And that's fair. I'm a human person. I'm a human woman. Of course, I have feelings. I have emotions. And some of this remains difficult to speak on, even though I feel like it's helpful. So thank you there. Now there's, I'm trying to see how long I've been going here. I'm not exactly sure. Gata shimi kishni, dedim gyana, idu chima kapili makashna, ganchi, chantayla. Oh, the higher wisdom saying, you know, just take your time and say what you need to say. It's all right. It's all right. No one's pressuring you but yourself. So fair enough, fair enough. So, gosh, there's so many things I just said that I know I have to go back and unpack further in this video series down the road. There's so much, there's so much, there's so much, there's so much. Truly. I'm always giving you the cliff notes. And it's also getting the sort of getting my sea legs as I discuss this more openly. So appreciate your patience if I'm feeling slow or difficulty getting to the crux of the matter. Okay, so back to the last abduction experience or interference experience that I had, taken out of the house. I wanted to know, why did I just experience that again? I thought this was done. So this is a pretty interesting story, and it made a lot of sense to me because I got the information pretty quickly. It's like, okay, so my father's dead, and I've undone the program with the Greys. What haven't I done? What haven't I seen here? Why is this still going on? Why am I, why am I still here? Why are we repeating this after, 40 plus years? So jump off that track and come back. This is related. I have a Draco aspect that revealed itself very strongly and I want to say almost protectively after my father's departure from this human embodiment in the spring. And it came to, it's always been with me. Number one, I would not have been able to welcome it in probably before this because, come on, the Draco, we know I've made a terrible name for them here in the solar system and beyond. They're not nice players. Basically, that's how they've made a name for themselves, as being the worst of the worst. You don't want to get involved in a nasty Draco scenario because they've perfected a lot of pretty wicked technology for use on humans and others. So anyway, but this, as we speak of non-polarity and not polarizing, let's realize that I can't say that there aren't pure malevolent races out there. There are purely malevolent energy fields, and that's what I consider the Archonic. That's what the Archon energy is to me. The Draco also have, not every Draco is wicked, not every reptilian is wicked. And so when I first started having the Draco experience, when I experience a galactic aspect, it's often directly through the body. It's visceral in my body. I become, in essence, my Andromedan self, my Pleiadian self. Those are familiar, and I get them, and they're very, they're places that are very, they're high light. The body changes. It's very tall. Sort of classic light being sort of feeling, but this is different when the reptilian started sort of erupting through my musculature and my bone structure, and like, oh, okay, far out. And of course I went, okay, what's going on? I'm suspect. What is this Draco coming in to steal my energy, or is it feeding on fear? What's it doing? And it had come to me somewhat in at the end of long meditation. I would see it standing there, and I could read its signature, and I knew that it wasn't negative, even though my impulsive linear mind, or compulsive, was being very, like, hey, get out of here. It's actually, to make a long story short, a self aspect that has come in to help me, or made itself visible. Surely in some aspect of my subconscious asking to come in to help me, to deprogram and to come home into my power, into my voice, into become, its energy is very equanimous. It's very calm, and it's very, very calm, very centered, very grounded, very powerful, and clear, crystal clear energy. Very centered and far-seeing through its eyes. It's an uncanny amount of psychic ability that turns on in me. And this aspect, actually, of myself has always been there. And it's very, the Draco themselves seek out people for their, to be in these programs who have the Draco genetic, or a Draco starseed, or Draco DNA, because I think it makes us more malleable to their ends. What I realized there, as I started relating to my 9-year-old inner child, who I see as a different, an individuated, autonomous being unto herself, even though she's part of me, we relate a lot, as I do with my 4-year-old. I work with them very much every day. And she said, I thought we had to help them. They're our family. Don't we have to let them do this? And there was the crux of the matter. There was the reason that this night abduction had happened again, even after I had ended the contract, the program with the Greys. There was still an agreement with the Draco. And it was because she didn't know better. This is child self saying, but they're our family. They love us, don't they? Oh, no, sweetie. Not these ones. We don't have to help them anymore. Where I said, we had a long conversation. I said, we're not in service to them anymore. We're not there anymore. We don't have to let them come for us. We're not working for them. We're free now. And she got it, but it was like, I needed to see that to understand why this had happened yet one more time. So it made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense, especially from a child's mind, remembering a lot of this. My off-world service happened to me when I was a child. So it makes sense. We're working with a child's reasoning, which often is grounded in a feeling of wanting to stay safe and to be loved, and to do to want to be approved of, the child who needs protection and safety and validation. I'll do whatever you want, just don't turn away from me. And I think that had kept this running. It's been fascinating to unpack that. Like, oh, I totally get it. I totally get it. And a lot of these things I couldn't see until my father died for a variety of reasons. I knew that when he passed, a lot. It's been like I feel like I've been running back-to-back marathons trying to keep up with everything that's coming in, all the old memories and things unlocking in my brain, and things rising up from the depths of the unconscious. I knew it would happen, but man, it's been intense, and in a good way, in a really, really, really beautiful way, very synchronous ways, and ways I could never have thought of. And bless him, in his journey into the beyond, into this next embodiment or whatever he chooses to do. Anyway, I wanted to share that. So if you are having anomalous experiences like abductions, you might be questioning why. Can you remember what's happening? Lots of people have way more recall than I do. And I kind of wished that the Greys and the Draco and the insectoids were messier so I could see more. And it's sort of a self-protective mechanism too. There's aspects in our own reality, in our own mind that will keep us from seeing the most horrible things that happen to me. And there's still things from these projects and programs that I cannot readily access because they're so horrible. That's absolutely true. And it scares me because it's like how many little data packets and memory fields are so fragmented and not accessible to me. When we grow up with a sense of, we come into adulthood and kind of think we have a handle on who we are. But what if things start coming into your field of awareness, your consciousness, that are about your own life, but you don't recognize. It can be very disorienting, and it's kind of challenging. And that's why we leave all of these things in the shadow realms, in the cellar of our, the basement of our psyche. It's just better to keep it there, we think. But what I could also say is that my life has gotten, over the last couple of years of working heavily with this material, has gotten better and brighter and brighter and better. So otherwise, you might say, well, why don't you just leave this stuff alone? What is the point in resurrecting all of this whole story with all of its very many layers? What's the point? But the point is healing. This is, if I wasn't, as we say, the proof is in the pudding. Well, it's there. It is there. My whole life is transforming for the better. So, gosh, part of me wishes I was doing a live stream on YouTube, because then you guys can ask questions. Because I'm reckoning you have them, and I don't know that I presented this in the most linear, coherent way that I might have, and probably missing some detail, because as yet it's still a little difficult to talk about. I mean, yeah, there's huge things I'm leaving out. And I'll get to that. I'm giving myself whatever an hour today, and not wanting to exhaust you or me with too much crammed in. The other issue is that when we're talking about quantum physics rather than Newtonian physics, and the materialist view of the world, in which only this table, only this computer are real, and the linear mind, all those things in the English language. It's all linear, and it really is then an enormous challenge to bring coherent language to these experiences, which are located in many ways in the quantum field beyond space and time. Because you could say, well, how is a being coming into your home and just taking you somewhere? How does that work? Are they there in physical? Well, it's quantum. They are there. They may not have the flesh and blood and bone that you and I have, but many things exist that you do not see. So you don't see the hydrogen and oxygen that you're breathing, but they're vital for your survival. They're there. We remind you that only a small percentage of the known world is actually visible to the human eye. And yet you spend your whole life living in that one small fraction of reality. You know it's a limitation, don't you? You are also much more capable, confident, and supreme than you believe. It's just that you can't see it. So you disbelieve. You disbelieve many things. You disbelieve many things, including your own power, your own capacities, your own abilities. Probably fair. Yeah. So I think, where I'm getting stuck, I'm just drawing on the light language from the another galactic aspect, and who's often coming through there is Andromedan. Andromedan and Pleiadian are pretty common when I'm speaking the light language. And sometimes it's from another group, but it's coming into the Andromedan or Pleiadian self aspect. You see, it gets difficult. The mind is going, what? Huh? How does that work? All right, so I had to look at my notes. There's so much to this. And write your questions in the comments if you have places where you want to know more. I'm sure there's that going on for you. What I also wanted to say, this is so beautiful, and it's so remarkable. When I saw this, it was like, made me cry. Really touched my heart, is that when I was being taken out of my bed, for dark and dirty purposes, something else was also going on. This was shocking to me, but I was being also taken to, I saw this, could see this, and it makes sense now when I look back at my childhood. So much sense. It's also being taken up. It's like part of my soul and part of the psyche and the etheric body being taken up to the mothership craft that seems to be mostly Syrian, Pleiadian, and Procyon, let's say family members who were, so in a, let's say in a simultaneous experience, part of me is being taken off world to do service for, days, weeks, months. But at the same time, the other part, and that's all happening in an instant. I'm placed back in the bed. Boom, there you are. You didn't even know you were gone. You're just disoriented and feel kind of fucked up. That's all. Seamless technology, very advanced technology. But I was also being taken for the same amount of time, 3D linear time, into very benevolent, just, I want to say like blissful environment in learning there too. So that probably sounds really confusing. We're taking part of me here and part of me there, but we are multidimensional beings, and we can have many parallel experiences at the same time. I do totally understand how that helped me survive through the dark projects and the secret space program and things like that. And probably has helped me to be much more coherent now and still be able to access some of the psychic gifts and, the intuitive work that I do and the channeling. That is still, or after a long, hiatus through sort of earlier midlife, it's all coming back and has come back. It's what I do full time for my work. But I think that these benevolence, I was being protected at a very deep, essential source level. There was something in me that would not be and could not be destroyed throughout all of this learning, this great school of experience. And again, you have polarity, the deepest, darkest, most wicked things going on the one hand. And then on the other, the brightest love. And it's like love, when I describe the experience with them and with this family, is it's like love is too small of a word, I feel, to be cared for and held. And it's beyond what I can it's beyond what I can describe in human terms. So, and I do see myself physically again levitating up into, like I see myself sleeping peacefully in bed with a smile on my face on my side as a child, even though part of me has gone off into experiences of an entirely different sort, a different nature. My mind being used for darkness, dark ends. That this is also happening, is to experience light. Maybe I contracted and decided I would come in to experience these things, as it would give me more information about how humanity could ultimately, or at least myself within the human, a little, grain of sand in the human collective, would understand more about how to resolve this from the inside out. And I feel that there's some truth in that. It also helped create more of those experiences helped create more of I would say, a survivor rather than just an abject victim throughout all of this. More of a survivor. And eventually now, especially with the creation of these videos, that I feel like I'm sort of sticking my foot in my mouth and not being clear enough today. But it's still helping me become, we go from victim consciousness to creator, co-creator consciousness, in which we're part of the great dance, the theater phenomena here on Earth in our own lives. So what am I creating out of the experiences that I've had? It's always up to me what I do with those experiences. And to me now, it's like I work in service to light. And as I speak about these experiences, I feel like we're holding light, holding these wicked things and these dark projects and genetic hybridization experiences. And like I said before, sticking children into using their minds, torturing them, and putting them into war zones off-world. I mean, it makes no sense to the ordinary mind. That a conventional view, doesn't have a frame of reference for that. But it helps make more sense to me why, the why becomes an answerable and workable equation then. And the other thing I'll share is, my little 4-year-old has always said, do you remember how we used to go out by the rocks out back, and we go to the school for starseed children with wings at night? And I'm like, well, kind of. And this is that's part of what she was talking about. We were being taken other places, and other things were happening to us, but we were actually going to starseed school with galactic family who were caretaking us beyond space and time. So grateful for that. And I know, it's like so many of all my experiences now are just, my life is filled with benevolent beings and beings who help me. And I keep thinking I need to end this, but I will share the ant beings who have featured so strongly in some of my abductions. I also, 2 years ago, began working with an ant being, and her name, I call her Bella. Her name is like a long string an infinite string of numbers. It's numbers. It's just beyond, I can't 9, and then it's infinite. I was introduced to her probably, 2018. And she comes in as a helper and also somebody who always has to ask if she can help me. She has to have permission from me. That's true of a lot of guides, or a lot of external guidance or galactics have to ask our permission, or we have to ask for help and give that permission for them to help us. That's definitely true. Can you see where I'm going with the ant beings? Because they were so heavily operating in a malevolent, to a malevolent end in abduction experiences, but then coming in later, we're talking about cosmic karma and checks and balances. And again, what I've experienced with her in the small group that she works with, I talk to her every day. It's really interesting. And you might say, well, that's just Stockholm syndrome and you're in love with your captors. Bella, I don't feel like that's there. And maybe I've mentioned this, they have angelic energy. It's very, very, very high. We could talk about also, the human palette of experience and what people do as humans on this earth. We have a full range of light and dark in the human realm. We have rapists and murderers and serial killers and, XYZ over there. And we have people doing incredible acts of kindness, compassion, love, selflessness in human form. So then do you say every human is good or every human is bad? I don't know that we can make it so cut and dried and so simple. So we're living in that not quite sure land, which is always where the juice is. When we can't stick it here and we can't stick it there, conceptual mind wants to pin it down. But actually when we can't, then we have to make a journey. Then we are actually growing and learning that maybe the truth. It's not so easy to put things in boxes and throw them under the bed. There's more to the answers that you need. There's much nuance and much subtlety. And many of the answers you seek contain, things that are beyond the visible. And you need to learn them, and that's where. And you can't quite pin it down. It's true in my journey. When I can't quite pin it down, There's something to be learned there that's very potent. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we do need to have, case closed and finished. I'm finished. I understand that, but sometimes there's so much to be learned in the gray area. So, if you're having anomalous experiences yourself, what I would say is to write things down. The things, because I have people contacting me like, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" If you can write down what you do know and do remember of your experiences physically, write it down. That can help you start to unlock other areas of the psyche, the subconscious mind, to help you get at what's been closed down inside the memory field. That's one way to help yourself go further on the path. If you've had, a lot of people have written to me saying, "I've got fragments and pieces of this and that make absolutely no sense." Write those fragments down. Write down what you do know, write down what you do remember. It's also giving your higher self, higher mind, the cue that you're ready to move on this stuff, that you're ready to receive more information. Lots of times, the psyche and the soma are not going to divulge more information when we're kind of energetically going, no, 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 like me going for how many decades? No, those are not abductions. They're just bad dreams. They're just bad dreams. Yeah, when we're ready, the teacher emerges. So you're coaching yourself, in essence, when you're writing things down. You're giving yourself a thumbs up to move forward. And also, you can always book a session with me. The Starseed coaching sessions, we could do a Akashic reading to figure out what's going on for you. And of course, the inner child sessions, healing sessions. So any of those would help you. If any of this is resonating for you, and you've got just stuff you can't file anywhere, we can always go further in and look together at that. It's also somehow it can be easier to do when we've got a teammate. We've got somebody helping us. That's why you've been holding my hand. Okay. And also, like I said, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're receiving these videos. Like I said, I hope I can create a clear linear narrative out of what is so nonlinear, but I guess it's a work in progress. And as I'm also clearly working with emotional material coming up during the videos, dedicating just I guess I want to say the merit of what's been given today, what's come through today, to lightening that collective shadow and bringing light to the lives of those people who have experienced abduction by covert military, covert human operations, by extraterrestrials that are in service only to self for their own nefarious purposes. And helping make visible what has been invisible and yet running this world from the shadow realm, right in front of us, right under our noses. So bringing light to that darkness so that all of humanity can heal from this. And again, encouraging us all to be vulnerable and to please be who you are. The time is now for that. I'm going to hold your hand through that. So signing off, Rebecca Barfoot, Sirius Blue, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You can always subscribe if you want the next installment, because apparently there'll be a few more. Okay.